Against my better judgment, I stood in line at GameStop in an actual physical line and picked up the sequel to the most disappointing game ever made. What have I done to deserve this?
Vaughn!
What? Mom, I'm doing voiceover.
In your sitcom, I want to be played by either Terry Hatcher or Rosie O'Donnell. You gotta admit, I'm a lot cuter than Rosie O'Donnell, but not as cute as Chevy Chase. Terry Hatcher.
I gave Final Fantasy XIII a 7.8 out of 10, but that doesn't tell the whole story. That simplified dribble took 5 years to make. I would have rather spent 5 years in prison than be on the staff that made that game. 5 years go by and you have to tell your kids you made one of the most hated video games in history, whereas I get washboard abs, a cool tattoo, and finally a boyfriend. So given the fact that no one fell in love with Final Fantasy XIII, the kind folks at Square Enix decided to make a direct sequel, Final Fantasy XIII-2. Trying to make sense out of the story of this game is far more work than you're paying me for, so I'll give it a shot. As the planet Cocoon fell from the sky into the planet Pulse, just go with it, two heroes by the names of Vanille and Fang encased themselves into a crystal pillar to support the falling planet. In the process, the protagonist of the previous game, Lightning, fell into another world, lost from time. In reversal of roles, Lightning's less macho sister, Sarah, has to come to the rescue. To help her sis, Lightning has sent a hunter from the distant future by the name of Noel Christ of Nazareth, and a creature called a Moogle that can transform into a weapon. Just please bear with me, to help guide Sarah through gates in time to fix the paradoxes that have plagued their world, hoping to restore the past, present, and future. Sounds easy enough, but standing in their way is of course a tall white male with long hair, which this time is purple. His name is Caius, he's got poor judgment, says he can't die, a sword made of black feathers, and the less questions, the better. The possibilities of time travel are well represented, and though I'm not sure if changing the future changes the past, I do have to say that the whole story is an improvement over 13's. I beat the game, I'll show you how in a minute, and though the ending is crap and the twisted story doesn't actually make sense, it's still better than 13's. I guess it helps that this time, our lead actually has emotions. Since there isn't a little kid to annoy you, they gave you this Moogle thing that says Kupo at the end of every freaking sentence, like it counsels the students of South Park Elementary. Some revenge can be had by throwing it, and you just might get some treasure in the process. Some of the paradoxes you encounter have to be physically solved like puzzles. A good change of pace for an epic story. Sadly, this mini-game only happens twice and my recording device didn't care for it. The battle system is mostly carried over from Final Fantasy XIII. You still command a single character designated as the leader, and to get your team on the same page, you shift strategies, which the game calls paradigms. I like this battle system, I really do. The fights are fluid. There's no justification saying you'd rather waste 5 minutes every time you want to summon Knights of the Round, or have your team wait in line like they're fighting Bruce Lee. There are differences between the battle system found in this game and its predecessor. Random encounters have been reintroduced to the series. Sorta. As you travel the world, monsters will appear a few feet away. Players are almost always given the chance to run away or initiate the fight, and the latter grants you the preemptive strike bonus. This time it's just Sarah and Noel. You aren't recruiting Ludacris, young Steve Martin, or Zach Brannigan into your party. There is a third member, a tamed monster. Almost any creature you defeat during the game can be captured like a Pokemon and used in battle. Each fits a single role, so unlike Noel or Sarah, if you capture a medic creature, you can't make him a commando. As your characters gain experience, you still have to go to the Crystallarium to manage their skills. This isn't nearly as convenient as the system I proposed in my review of Final Fantasy XIII. That system would have ran on autopilot and unlocked the Jay Leno as well as prostitute classes. Early on, I encountered the very cool looking and therefore I assumed powerful Behemoth. So I ground out some battles and eventually captured him. The Behemoth was the instant star of my lineup, a la Jeremy Lin, and using the aggression paradigm reduced the game to a simple mashing of a single button to confirm commands. Even fighting most bosses who curiously have accompanying death metal themes was no work at all. This isn't a knock on the system as much as it's the fault of the game's difficulty. There is a new easy mode that shouldn't be used because rare item drop rates will reduce. I was having an easy enough time hitting the A button, I didn't need it. In the long storied history of the Final Fantasy franchise, no game worked harder to go against the established than Final Fantasy XIII. With spitting in the face of tried and true gameplay elements, 13-2 has a lot of criticism to address. I'll tell you here and now, the team listened. Gone are the abhorrent level designs where the worlds were built like elongated hallways. Now you actually walk around the environment and even revisit locales through the use of the Historia Crux, a mission select screen for time-traveling aficionados. Sadly, not a combination of a hysterectomy and that stuff used to kill the Dark Lord. The level of interaction has been greatly upped with the inclusion of side quests. You'd almost think there were characters in the game whose lives didn't revolve around the player. I have to give the team props for fixing the shop system too. Strippers beat computer terminals any day. Fans of the series will be relieved of the reintroduction of the chocobo birds for riding purposes. There isn't a huge need for them, but they come in handy if you're looking to travel quickly, and they can access hidden areas through their pathetic excuse for flying. Like in Final Fantasy VII, chocobos can be raced. This time the action goes down at Serendipity, a casino for time travelers. If you get too bored saving the world, you can play slots with all the vigor of a retiree, but all the prizes can be better earned through exchanging the cash earned from fighting battles. I also love how there are tables ready to deal cards, but the game wants you to buy that feature later. Yep, you paid $60 for a 30-hour role-playing game without a deck of cards. This time I opted not to spend half the game's retail price on a strategy guide. That's what the internet is for. Honestly, there weren't many times that I felt I needed a hand. The first occurrence came in the final stages when early 30s Steve Martin sent me to find cores scattered across time. I guess at some point in the future, the people living on Pulse decided there was no way to preserve the weakening crystal supporting Cocoon, so they decided to build a new Cocoon and float it in the sky. Yeah, because it was so much fun when the last Cocoon came plummeting. Anyway, there are hints for finding these cores provided in-game, but only in the most vague of descriptions telling me in which stage to look, but little else. In the interest of time, I found sources online, and even that made it a pain. Who is the dick who thought we needed to hunt transparent orbs? And when you do see them, you need your Moogle to activate them, because walking towards something and pressing a single button to open it is so 1997. After returning them to Steve Martin's concubine Alyssa, I hopped into a gate for what the game was building up as the point of no return. So far, Sarah, Noel, and my ever-trusting behemoth have met little resistance, so surely I'm ready to give it a go with Caius.
Vaughn!
What now?
Who won the Oscar for that movie, L.A. Confidential?
Kim Basinger and some people you haven't heard of. You have a MacBook Pro, look it up.
Yeah, but you're already on, and I paid for your education.
We landed in academia at the point where the new Cocoon is being launched and evidently Pulse is falling apart from all the time manipulation, I think. There's a puzzle element, and at long last some strategic jumping, and finally some challenging battles worthy of a paradigm shift. After a rash of upsets, I opted to sneak past one encounter, but why should that deter me from the final boss? So we find ourselves bumping into Ludacris, who for unexplained reasons is 500 years in the future from the last time we saw him, and his son hasn't aged a day. He gives us a dangerous ride on top of his airship so that we can duke it out with Caius without ruining the interior.
Everything I do is for you.
Everything I do it for you.
The fight with Caius is more tiring than epic. Whatever happened to the good old days when the fight at the beach was symbolic? Like there's nowhere to run. Next thing you know, you're getting tossed in the air to fight dragons, and just when you think you've got what it takes, you've got control of the fights, you can outlast the repetitive, that's when you get sheep-shotted with a blast of level up, son. This brings me to the second time I needed any help with Final Fantasy XIII-2. It's time to find some ideal monsters to get me an edge. My solution was to first visit the Mystic at the casino, because at this point the game shall grant you the ability to jump further, allowing access to previously closed areas. Next, I went to find the hidden monster, Chai-Chu, in the Archetypite Steppe. To do so, simply chuck your Moogle at these pink flowers and boom, you've acquired one of the strongest fighters in the game. Then simply hop to the other side of the map and get your combat on. These creatures drop the potent materials you need to upgrade your new Onion Beast. Alright, a-hole, how you like me now?
Does that make you love me, baby?
Oh, we got a comedian in the house, do we? Well, two can play this game. Sadly, what ensues is a pre-rendered knife to the back. I won't spoil it for you, but what our time's coming to when to be continued is the best effort we deserve. When the all-powerful YouTube sends out copyright takedown claims to industry outsiders with an opinion on the arts of our culture, kick them out of revenue sharing to the point they can't make a dime from their passion. And here I am, paying $60 for this. Once more into the Odyssey, to the last good battle I'll ever know. To farm and die by this strategy. To farm and die by this strategy.